shift workers tend to lose about 10 years of healthy life at the end of their career. We see people getting sick a lot earlier, and this isn't just difficult shifts they're working. This is heavy manual work they're doing at all times of the night and day. So there needs to be a balance. The work has to be done, but you don't have to kill people in the process of doing it through these unsocial hours.
This morning, the Transport Secretary Mark Harper has been on the airwaves saying that the RMT are refusing to settle the dispute. Is that true?
No, we're not refusing to settle a dispute. We've had no decent offers from the train operating companies. And in Network Rail, we took their offer and we put it in a referendum vote, as they asked us to do, and our members rejected it. So we're not refusing to settle, we just haven't got a deal that's supported by our members yet, and we want to continue in negotiations until we get one.
He said he was disappointed that you were out on the picket this morning and not round the negotiating table. Is that the case?
Well, that is the case. We don't have any offers to sit down and meet just yet. I've actually seen my opposite number negotiated this morning. We're going to have a call later on today, but until we've got an invitation to sit down and talk, we'll be on the picket line.
I did see that Tim Shoveler, the head of Network Rail, was here joining you on the picket, and you get on well?
Yeah, fine, no problem at all. I mean, we're both in a difficult spot. He's representing his interests and I'm representing my members. So, there's no personal animosity. We'll just wait until we get an invitation and we'll get round the table and try and thresh a deal out.
It's quite mad, I suppose, that we're the first day back to work and no one's able to get to their place of work. I mean, what would you say to passengers who can't get on a train this morning?
Well, I'll just say, look, it's tough, it's really hard, but we've got to remember it's really important to think about what happens when people do get to work, because right now in the country, everybody's struggling to get by with the cost of living crisis. Pay's not keeping up with prices, not keeping up with standards of living. And we've got to do something about that, because if we don't sort that out now, we're just going to see people going backwards generation on generation. So we have to do this. There's no other way around it.
And then in the middle of all of this, over Christmas we heard there's going to be a near 6% rise in rail fares. I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, this is the strange thing. So they say we can't have decent pay rises because it's going to cause what they call a wage price spiral. And in most of the big disputes you're seeing, that's completely untrue. So prices are already set by government in the rail industry. If we get a decent pay rise, it's got no association whatsoever with the cost of fares. The government has a policy of having inflation plus rises in fares and has had that for years. So they've already built in inflationary pressures into the cost of travelling on the railway, and we think fares actually should be taken down, and they could afford to do that because of the huge profits that are going on in the rail industry. They could reduce the cost of tickets for the travelling public and they could pay workers a decent pay rise, but instead they choose to put the fares up to keep the profits going to these private companies, and they tell us that we're the ones responsible for a wage price spiral and it's them putting the prices up.
We also hear that the conditions that you're asking for, such as a guard on a train, not driver-only operations, would put pressure on the railways to put ticket prices up. Is that true?
Well, no, they're putting ticket prices up because the government mandates fares go up every year by RPI+. And that's happened for years and years and years. That's why we've got the most overpriced fares in Western Europe, and that's why we've got a poor service in terms of the value you get for what you're paying. It doesn't have to be like that. They could reduce fares. Where the money's going out of this industry in profits, that's where we could make some savings, and that's where we could reinvest that money into bringing fares down and paying the workers to run a decent rail service.
So you don't think that your dispute is costing the passenger?
No, it's not costing the passenger. The government's doing that directly. They're putting the fares up today. And they would have done that irrespective of whatever pay deal we got. They did it last year, they did it the year before last, and they've done it every year since we've had a privatised railway. And we've campaigned every year for them to stop doing that and actually bring the prices down and make our transport system affordable.
Much of this dispute is about conditions. Yeah. Can you talk to me about the conditions that maybe, I don't know, Peter, who's sitting in Bolton, might understand?
So for my members in Network Rail, they're quite difficult. So they want to reduce the frontline maintenance workforce on the railway by a third. That's huge. They want to cut maintenance scheduled tasks. These are people going out to inspect the railway to make sure it's not broken and is safe. They want to cut that work in half, just cut it in half. This is at a time when funding is being cut, and they're asking the people who are going to remain in the industry to work a lot more unsocial hours. And right now our members already work some of the most unsocial shift patterns in the country, over 24 hours, over weekends. Most weekends they work, working nights and all the rest of it. They want to increase the amount of antisocial hours people are working by about 30% or more. So that means people who've got families and routines, it's going to disrupt their lives. It means people are going to fall sick earlier in their working life. And on top of that, what they want to do is, because they're only going to work people so hard and work them in unsocial shifts, which damages your health and causes you to really knacker your body too young, they want to bring in a scheme where they can just sack people off with a justifiable retirement age. So those are the problems our people are facing. And for a lot of our people, they're telling us this ain't about the money for us anymore. We just can't do this. I had a rep, someone I've known for 20 years, say, Eddie, I'm telling you, I can't work these shifts. It's either going to cost me my life and my health, or it's going to cost me my marriage. We just can't work anymore on social hour shifts. So that's where the real problem is for our members in Network One.
I mean, the argument from, I suppose, a lot of people in the country would be that they are also being forced to work unsociable hours in their employment, and so therefore you should too. I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, we already do. So our members work 39 weeks of night shifts. They work 65 they can be rostered up to whole weekend shifts in a cost of over the course of a year. That's a lot of unsocial hours working. They do it over 24 hours a day, different shift patterns. I know a lot of people do that too, but you have got to have some balance around that, because shift workers tend to lose about 10 years of healthy life at the end of their career. We see people getting sick a lot earlier, and this isn't just difficult shifts they're working. This is heavy manual work they're doing at all times of the night and day. So there needs to be a balance. The work has to be done, but you don't have to kill people in the process of doing it through these unsocial hours.
Why do these conditions need to be guaranteed now?
Well, because if you don't guarantee them now, you'll just end up being worked to the bone. You'll end up knackered, and you'll end up being justifiably retired, or maybe you fall sick and you can't work anymore. We need to look after people. It's not just about money. People have got to go to work and come home healthy from work too.
What would your message to the government be today?
Well, they've got to pack it in. They've got to sort this. Their whole policy is to hold wages down. That's how they see their path through getting through this difficult economic period. They're quite content to protect profits, which have never been as high. They just want to keep wages down, and they want to undermine the ability of workers to protest against being poor. They need to reverse that. What we need to do is take these profits down a peg or two and redirect them into the pockets of ordinary working class people, and that'll sort things out.
Is support for the strikes waning among your members?
No, it's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. You've got to appreciate our members have taken a lot of strike action now. We've put some heavy strike action on over the Christmas period. We're going into January. The credit card bills are coming in, so it ain't easy. It's always going to be difficult, but we're here, and our members want to keep plodding on. They want to keep fighting, and so as long as they're prepared to fight, so are we.
So do you think that the government stalling negotiations in, I suppose, hope that you might crack, do you think that'll work?
No, I don't think it'll work. I mean, that was part of their strategy in the first place, was to wait us out. So they've got legislation in place, so you've got to reballot your members every 6 months to say in a dispute. And that's a really hard thing to do. It's not easy to get one ballot over the line, never mind two. But we broke out of that. We've had a ballot return just before Christmas. They were making a lot of fuss about us not putting offers to our members in a vote. So we did that. We put an offer to our members in a vote, and they rejected it. So that's our mandate. They voted in overwhelming numbers to take strike action. They voted in overwhelming numbers to reject this pay offer. And so we're in this fight until we get a settlement for our members that they can support.